Greetings from the English literature, your go-to destination for all things literary. In this video, I am going to talk about the biography of William Wordsworth. Now, if you do not know William Wordsworth, then let me give you a brief overview of him. You might have heard about the Romantic movement, age, era, period, or Romanticism in English literature, right? So, William Wordsworth was an English Romantic poet who not only belonged to that age but is regarded as one of the founders of the Romantic movement through the publication of lyrical ballads in 1798. He is best known for his poems The Prelude, Tinternabé, Daffodils, and many more. Therefore, it is very important to know him if you are studying English literature. Before I proceed, I want to tell you that this discussion on biography is not going to be the conventional one, where you get to listen to the biography in a narrative form. It is because I feel that when you listen to or read the biography as a story, then the primary emphasis lies on the action of the individual, and the timeline of the actions along with important keywords gets the secondary emphasis. As a result, you usually forget dates and important names in the exam hall. Then eventually, you fail to write the exact information on your answer sheet when required. And to compensate for this, you start filling the answer sheet with common nouns instead of proper nouns. That is why, to counter this problem, I have come up with a point-wise biography in accordance with the timeline, where the primary emphasis will be on important keywords. So, let us dive right in. Starting with the early years and family. 7th April 1770 is the date when William Wordsworth was born to John Wordsworth and Anne Cookson Wordsworth in Cockermouth, Cumberland, which is part of the scenic region in northwestern England known as the Lake District. He was the second oldest among his four siblings, whose names were Richard, Dorothy, John, and Christopher. His father was a legal representative of James Lowther, 1st Earl of Lonsdale. The father and the children did not share a close relationship, as the father was frequently away from home on business. However, William Wordsworth had an everlasting close bond with her younger sister Dorothy Wordsworth, with whom he was baptized together. If I talk about his early education and childhood, he was taught to read by his mother, and initially he attended a grammar school near Cockermouth Church. His father taught him poetry, exposing him to the works of Milton, Shakespeare, and Spenser. Additionally, he had the privilege of accessing his father's extensive library. Then he moved to his maternal grandparents' house in Penrith, where he mostly spent his childhood till the age of 7 years. There, he attended Anne Burkett's school. This school played an important role in his life because during his time in this school, he started developing an everlasting close bond with her sister Dorothy and met with Mary Hutchinson, who later became his wife. One more thing. William's paternal grandparents and uncle also lived in Penrith, but he did not get along with them as they had a hostile relationship. Moving on to March 1778, when William Wordsworth lost his mother. He was just 7 years old at that time. His mother, Anne Wordsworth, died while visiting a friend in London. This incident marked the separation between beloved brother and sister, as their father sent William to Hogshead Grammar School in Lancashire, and Dorothy was sent to live with her mother's cousin Elizabeth Thelclade in Halifax, Yorkshire. Thereafter, they both did not meet again for the next 9 years. 30th December 1783 brought yet another setback in the life of William Wordsworth. On this day, his father John Wordsworth died due to illness. It was obvious that the children faced a financial crunch as both parents died. However, William, along with his brothers Richard, John, and Christopher, continued to attend the school together at Hogshead while staying in the house of Anne Tyson. Here comes the academic pursuits and literary beginnings. In 1787, after completing his school, William Wordsworth started attending St. John College in Cambridge as a Caesar. Caesar is an undergraduate student at Cambridge University who receives financial help from the college. William's undergraduate journey was not filled with academic brilliance. However, in the same year, he made his debut as a writer when he published a sonnet titled Sonnet on Seeing Miss Helen Maria Williams Weep at a Tale of Distress in the European magazine. Here, one thing should be noted. William Wordsworth had been composing verse since his days at Hogshead Grammar School. On 13th July 1790, after getting influenced by William Cox's Sketches to the Natural, Civil and Political State of Switzerland, William Wordsworth and his college friend Robert Jones departed for the tour of Europe, during which they toured the Alps extensively and visited nearby areas of France, Switzerland and Italy. They returned to England after 3 months in October. Next year, in January 1791, William Wordsworth was awarded a bachelor's degree from Cambridge. But it was just a pass degree, not something extraordinary. After that, he spent several months in London and North Wales. Then, in November, he visited France again as he was quite passionate about democracy since childhood, and he was also very influenced by the French Revolution. There, he attended sessions of the National Assembly and the Jacobin Club. In December, he met and fell in love with a French woman, Annette Vallon. Moreover, he began writing his descriptive sketches while being in France. In early December 1792, William Wordsworth returned to England without Annette Vallon due to the financial crunch and Britain's tense relations with France. Just after that, Annette Vallon gave birth to his daughter Caroline. Back in England, when William's relationship with Annette Vallon had become known to his relatives, then his entry to the church was restricted. In 1793, one of his first poems, An Evening Walk, was published. Then after, in the same year, his descriptive sketches was also published. Now moving on to the productive years and friendship with Coleridge. The year 1795 proved to be a significant year in the career of William Wordsworth as a couple of fortunate things happened to him. Firstly, he received a legacy of £900 from Raisley Calvert. This amount helped him to pursue a career as a poet. And secondly, he met with Samuel Taylor Coleridge in Somerset and developed a close friendship with him. In September, William along with his sister Dorothy settled at Racedown Lodge in Dorset, where they lived for the next 2 years. During his time there, William composed a tragedy named The Borderers and a poem named The Ruined Cottage. In 1797, William and Dorothy moved to Alfoxden House in Somerset so that they could live close to Coleridge, whose house in Nether Stowey was just a few miles away from the Alfoxden House. William Wordsworth and Coleridge used to spend many hours together walking in the nearby countryside and discussing poetry. William's remarkable and productive poetic career started after his friendship with Coleridge. He wrote most of his major works in the upcoming years. In 1798, William Wordsworth and Coleridge produced lyrical ballads with insights from Dorothy Wordsworth. In this volume, none of them mentioned their name as authors. During this year, he also worked on a piece of prose titled Essay on Morals, consisting of his evolving ideas on justice and morality. In September, William, Dorothy, and Coleridge set off for Germany. There, in the harsh winter, the brother and sister lived in Goslar. While there, William continued to write poems including an autobiographical poem, the poem to Coleridge, and the Lucy poems. The next year, in May 1799, William and Dorothy returned to England after having some disagreements with Coleridge. After their return, they visited the Hutchinson family at Sockburn, and William also began to prepare a new edition of lyrical ballads. When Coleridge returned to England from Germany, he travelled to the north with their publisher Joseph Cottle to meet Wordsworth and undertake a proposed tour of the Lake District. During this time, William and Dorothy were living in Dove Cottage at Town End in Grasmere, which is in the Lake District. This time, another poet, Robert Southey, was their neighbor. In 1800, William Wordsworth published the second edition of Lyrical Ballads, in which he included additional poems and a preface detailing their poetical principles. The year 1802 proved to be yet another significant year for William Wordsworth when Sir James Lowther died in May. It is because Sir William Lowther, who was the heir of Sir James Lowther, agreed to repay £4,000 to the children of John Wordsworth. Sir James Lowther owed this amount to John Wordsworth. The repayment gave much-needed financial stability to William. Thereafter, William and Dorothy went to France on a 4-week visit to meet Annette Wallon and Caroline. The main purpose of the visit was to prepare Annette for the fact of William's forthcoming marriage to Mary Hutchinson. Despite not marrying Annette Wallon, William supported her and his daughter Caroline as best he could in subsequent life. Later, he wrote a sonnet titled "It's a Lovely Evening, Peaceful and Free," recalling a seaside walk with 9-year-old Caroline, whom he had not met before that visit. Then, after returning to England, he married Mary Hutchinson in October. They had 5 children together, all born between 1803 to 1810. Now, moving on to his poetic accomplishment, the third edition of Lyrical Ballads was published this year. Then, in 1805, William published the 4th edition of Lyrical Ballads and completed that autobiographical poem, the poem to Coleridge, but he declined to publish such a personal piece until he finished The Recluse entirely. The passing of his brother John in 1805 had a significant impact on him and likely played a role in his choice to not publish this work. He continued to write poetry passionately over the next several years. In 1807, William published poems in 2 volumes, including Ode, Imitations of Immorality from Recollections of Early Childhood. He was quite hopeful that this new collection of poems would be as successful as the Lyrical Ballads, but it did not happen. In May 1808, William Wordsworth moved with his family to Allenbank, a larger house in Grasmere. Then in 1810, the friendship between Wordsworth and Coleridge suffered and they parted ways because Coleridge was dealing with an opium addiction. Later years and decline in works. The year 1812 was quite hard for William's personal life as he lost 2 of his children. On 4th June, his daughter Catherine died at the mere age of 3 years, and after 6 months, on 1st December, his 6-year-old son Thomas died. Here I would like to show you what William Wordsworth wrote to his friend Robert Southey to inform him about the death of his son. It will reflect William's sorrow along with his simplicity and directness in writing. Symptoms of the measles appeared upon my son Thomas last Thursday. He was most favourable held till Tuesday between 10 and 11. At that hour was particularly lightsome and comfortable. Without any assignable cause, a sudden change took place. An inflammation had commenced on the lungs which it was impossible to check, and the sweet innocent yielded up his soul to God before 6 in the evening. He did not appear to suffer much in body, but I fear something in mind, as he was of an age to have thought much upon death, a subject to which his mind was daily led by the grave of his sister. You can see how he wrote it with power and integrity while being in great sorrow. After this tragic personal experience, in late 1812, Sir William Lowther proposed to William Wordsworth that he would provide £100 a year for the support of him and his family until a salaried position became available. Initially, William Wordsworth was a bit reluctant to accept this patronage, but eventually he accepted it. A few months later, he was offered the post of distributor of stamps for Westmoreland with a salary of £400 a year. His appointment to this post made him financially secure. However, his political independence was affected deeply after he accepted the economic patronage and the post of stamp distributor that he received as a gift. This financial help from the aristocratic earl completely transformed the political belief of the radical republican and the supporter of the French Revolution and democracy in England. In May 1813, William Wordsworth and his family, including Dorothy, moved to Rydal Mount, Ambleside, where he spent the rest of his life. The following year, in 1814, William published The Excursion, the second part of The Recluse. The Recluse was supposed to be a 3-part work, though the first and the third part never got completed. By this time, William also started taking part actively in election campaigning. By 1820, William Wordsworth was enjoying considerable success in his earlier works. However, there was a decline in his works that he published after the mid-1810s. Many critics believe that the reason behind this decline was the fact that loss, death, endurance, separation, and abandonment were now resolved from his life. A good example of this decline can be seen in his political prose, Two Addresses to the Freeholders of Westmoreland, which was published in 1818. It has been described by a critic as nearly unreadable. However, this prose is important to understand William Wordsworth's entanglement in local and national politics. This entanglement in politics was also a factor in decline in his works. In 1823, William Wordsworth improved his relations with Coleridge, and by 1828 their relationship was fully reconciled when they toured Rhineland, Western Germany. Then in the upcoming decade, William Wordsworth lost many of his contemporaries, including Coleridge and Lamb, who both died in 1834, and James Hogg, who died in the following year. However, William Wordsworth was fortunate enough as the popularity of his poetry ensured him a new set of young friends and admirers to fill the vacuum that was caused by the death of his contemporaries. In 1838, William Wordsworth received an honorary doctorate in civil law from the University of Durham, and the following year he was awarded the same honorary degree by the University of Oxford. In 1842, the government awarded him a civil list pension of £300 a year. Then in 1843, after the death of Robert Southey, William Wordsworth was offered the honor of succeeding him as the Poet Laureate of the United Kingdom. However, initially he denied the honor, stating that he was too old, but accepted it when the Prime Minister Robert Peel assured him that there was nothing required of him as a Poet Laureate. Therefore, he became the only Poet Laureate to write no official verses. In 1847, he lost his daughter Dora, and this incident was tough for him to take at this juncture of age. As a result, he completely gave up composing new works. On 23rd April 1850, William Wordsworth died at home at Rydal Mount from an aggravated case of pleurisy. He was buried at St. Oswald's Church in Grasmere. After 3 months of his death, his widow Mary Hutchinson published his lengthy autobiographical poem, The Poem to Coleridge, as The Prelude, which is now considered as Wordsworth's magnum opus. So here comes an end to this. If you want more such videos, then like, comment, share and subscribe to the English Literature. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon.